1% of dudes rapping, they ain't nice as me. 98% ain't live the same type of life as me. The judge gave me life and then they sent me where the life is be. That level 4 with depth and vice, the type of stuff they like to see. Two choices, fight or flee. I refuse to die a chump. I never been a mark, but damn, it's scary when that riot jump. I seen dudes cry, get pumped, and some sexually brutalized. Knew a dude who lost his life and he was only doing 5 year-long racial fights when homie all you do is ride. Lonely days and nights up in a hole causing suicide. From the moment you arrive, you see the Mexican mafia, AB skinheads with big giant swastikas, pro-black philosophers, the BGF, the Kumi, and Muslims who will murk you from the nation to the Sunni. That MS was loony, quick to ride up on they rival. Even Christians went to church, hide knives up in a Bible. Political and tribal, the Crips and Damus, the Long Beach, the Hubs and the Dubs and the Grooves, the IE, the Bakersfield, the Dago Pyrus, the hustlers quick to roll, the gangsters don't move. Whatever clique you choose, you better
shit. But that's how it is in Oklahoma. If you fight with the brothers, you're gonna have to get it from the shoulders. Ain't none of that wrestling shit.
So if you can, describe the racial makeup of the prisons out there.
Okay, so what happens, there's a very small community of Mexicans and Indians. The Indians, even though they are one of the smallest groups, are probably the most dangerous group in the Oklahoma prison. I don't say that as disrespect to any other group. But I say that because they don't do no fighting. There used to be what was called, if you ratted on someone, if you caught out, if you told on a bunch of people, if people find out you're in for a sex crime, you get something put on you called an SOS. SOS means stab on sight. That means you're out of line. When you get there, as soon as you get to the yard, stab you on sight. Now, every group except for the Indians has changed that to smash on sight. But the Indians, it is still stab on sight. If you get into it with any other group, you can get stabbed, but you're more likely to get beat out. But if you get into it with the Indians, you're getting stabbed. Now, but say there's a riot jumps off. As soon as that happens, there's not that many Indians and Mexicans. So the Indians, the Mexicans, and the whites immediately join up because it takes all three races to have as many as there are blacks. So there's more blacks than any other race.
So out there, the blacks are the majority race in prison.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. When I first went into prison in '89, in the '80s and '70s, it was the opposite. There was more whites, and whites pretty much ran the penitentiary. They would use the N-word and everything, and the blacks couldn't do anything to even stand up for themselves. Mm-hmm. But then in the '90s, it changed. It flipped completely. And, I mean, it changed everything in the Oklahoma prison system. Nothing is the same since the '90s when the gangs started.
Well, let me ask you back. So go back a little bit to when the blacks were the minorities in prison. Did that affect the type of jobs that they may get or the type of cells they had to live in? Did it affect where it made their time a little harder to do?
Oh, absolutely.
Was there outward racism?
Oh, yeah, definitely. The guards would use outward racism. I mean, the racism was completely there were some guys in McAllister in maximum security. They made up some racist flyers. And when everybody went out to rec, passed them out to every black beanhole. So the blacks come back and they get this piece of paper with this Klansman on it, showing him killing this black guy and stuff. And there's nothing they can really do about that because they're outnumbered so greatly that all it will do is get them killed. And I'm talking 20, 30 years ago when this stuff happened. You got to remember where you are in Oklahoma. And you had some of these redneck guards that will help these convicts do this shit. They will pop this black guy's cell and let these guys go in there and kill him. So there's a difference between being brave and stupid. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And it's, I don't know if me and you was talking earlier or if we said it during our recorded conversation, but we said prison is pretty much prison from everywhere you go, right? And
everywhere you go.
I'm sitting here and I'm tripping on the comparison of let me say the similarities of how out here in California, you'll have guards
pop the sales of whatever racial group they might be upset with at the time. Whether it be they may pop the whites and let the blacks get them. You know, they may pop the blacks and let the whites get them. It just all depends. And it just points out how even out there, how you said that's a practice that goes on out there, you know, because a lot of times, Ricky, you know, the sad part about doing a prison show in California where there are so many different racial factions, you know, the Mexicans, the blacks, the whites, that sometimes people will listen with biased ears and they'll take sides and don't want to believe things are going on, you know, simply because they're siding with a certain racial group instead of just hearing, you know, the truth. And I think that, you know, because by me and you doing time and other people who've done time, when we hear prison stories, I think we listen differently because we've actually been to prison. So we hear things sometimes that may go over a person's head who hasn't gone to prison. But I just thought that was very profound how you would point out there that the guards out there would pop sales and put a certain racial group at danger the same way they do out here. And I know I'm kind of long, but I just think that a lot of people think that when people have these guard jobs, they suddenly become infallible. They become where they can't do no wrong, and they're still human. They still have human quality. They still get
absolutely.
And I just thought that it was very unique that you said that.
You know, my wife was a guard at the last prison I was at, and I don't think. I got out of prison, and I've been out for 13 years. I haven't gotten in trouble for anything, and it's all because of her. Okay, so she's not a bad person for getting with me. I don't think women should work in a male's prison, and for this reason. If you've got a yard with 1,500, 2,000 men on it, there's going to be one of them that looks good to her that says what she wants to hear. So, in my opinion, when you put a woman in a men's prison, you're setting her up for failure, man, because she's still a human being.
Right.
You feel me? She still has feelings.
And did you meet your wife while you were?
Absolutely. She was a guard at the last prison I was at. She got fired over me. And I discharged from the hole because of her. I went home straight from solitary confinement, walking around Walmart.
And let me ask you, what's that process like out there when you have a female guard having, you know, inappropriate relationships with a convict? Does she get in any legal trouble, or how does that work out there?
So they gave my wife. Okay, so my wife and me never touched. If she had touched me, they would have filed rape charges on her and put her in prison for it. Since they couldn't get us for touching, they called her in the room. They played me the recording of us talking on the phone. So they knew it was us talking, okay? Because they had us recorded. But they didn't play her the recording, and they asked her, did you talk to him on the phone? She don't know they've got the recording. She don't know that they know for a fact she talked to me. So she says, no, I haven't been talking to him. She stayed strong like I told her to. So they filed charges on her for lying to a federal investigator during the federal investigation, and she got a 2-year deferred sentence. There was a warrant out for her arrest just for talking to me on the phone. So absolutely, they will get charges, and they will go to prison when they get caught in Oklahoma.
Right. And so we got a little away from the topic of the racial tension back when the blacks were the minority. So did some of the whites go into cells with the intention to kill? Were some black convicts?
Oh, that's been done. That's absolutely been done, for sure. Yeah. So in McAlester, Oklahoma, it's not now, man, but back in the day, that was a really racial area. And you didn't see no blacks up around there. And when you drive up to McAlester, the Oklahoma State Penitentiary, it looks like it belongs on an island somewhere, man. When I pulled up to that place, I turned 19 in maximum security. I was there fighting naked in the shower. And when I got to that place, I've never been so terrified, man, of that place. You could just feel bad things going to happen when you get there. And that was a really racial area. And you know, the people that work the prison are the people that live around the prison.
Right.
It's just some old rednecks, you know, and they don't like blacks. And then they buddy up to this guy, this convict, and he wants to get at one of them, and they let him. And, you know, they don't only do that to blacks. If they get pissed off at a white convict, they took this one Mexican dude. There's this set of stairs. It goes down four stories, but it winds. And they took this guy, handcuffed and shackled, and shoved him down the stairs. He lived, but he was crippled for the rest of his life. And there's nothing you can do about it.
almost sounds like some old movie type stuff, some Sharp Redemption type stuff.
It really does, but that shit really happens.
I'm 100% sure that you've heard of the guards sometimes giving certain convicts knives, weapons, stuff like that.
Yeah. So there was a riot over at Holdenville. What happened is there was a black guy that came in off the streets that was the one running the gym. Okay. Now, the gym you can only go to for certain hours of the day. Like, say, after chow at night, they open the yard up from 6. You can go out on the yard from 6 till about 7:30 when they close it. And he will have one guy, he picks someone out. In this case, he had picked out a black guy to sit there at this little desk, and there's a cage in the corner of the gym. And inside that cage are bats to play ball. There's basketballs, everything you can need, gloves, whatever. So the blacks and the whites had got into it over something that happened in the visitation room. This white guy felt like the black guy disrespected his visitor. Okay. So they decide they're going to fight when they get back to the yard tonight. The white dude is a UAB, an Aryan, Universal Aryan Brotherhood. He is way bigger than this black guy. He's going to probably smash him. And that's what he's thinking. I'm going to go out here and smash this little black dude for disrespecting my visitor. What he don't know is the blacks have planned to attack them all. So after dinner, they get out there. All these white guys are out there, all these Aryans. And what they don't know is this black guy, this staff member that was running the gym, he's done brought in some Gerber lock blades, some little Gerber lock blades, and gave them to these black guys that work in the gym he's really cool with. And they've done passed them out. And as soon as everybody comes out of dinner, he passes the bats out to the blacks. And they also got these Gerber lock blades. So this white guy and this little black guy get out there, and he thinks he's fixing to jump on this little dude, and they pull out those Gerber lock blades and those bats, and they sent like 10 white guys to the hospital, and they killed one of them.
Wow. And so initially the plan was for the black guy and the white guy just to have a one-on-one fight.
Yeah. Yep. And the white guy was way bigger. He finna mash that little black dude, what they thought was about to happen.
Right.
And everybody come out there thinking that's what was going down, except for the blacks who had bats and lock blades.
Now, let me ask you, do you think the blacks already anticipated it turning into a racial event?
They did it they ambushed them.
Yeah.
So there were some whites that had like ice picks, homemade ice picks, but they didn't stand a chance against them lock blades.
Right. But my question is, do you think the blacks had armed themselves because they felt that this one-on-one fight would get out of hand, or
they weren't going to give them a chance? They decided ahead of time they weren't going to give them a chance. They weren't not going to let that. So the little brother, he said that he didn't disrespect no one, that the white dude is trying to bully him because he's bigger than him. He's like, this dude, he thinks he can whoop me because he's way bigger than me. I ain't do shit to him. So they decide he ain't fixed to take no whooping. We're going to go out there like we're going to fight, and then we're going to do them up. And that's what they did.
Right. And so in this story, it happened to be a black guard who brought in weapons and looked out for the black convicts. Were there many black guards working up there at that time?
It's kind of 50-50, man. All different. You see a lot of Indians, too, in this area, in Oklahoma. A lot of them work here. You don't see as many in prison, but the thing is, when they come into prison, if they don't have a sex charge, they patch them out. You know, pretty much all the Indians are warriors. So if they don't have a messed up charge, they're immediately going to be in the group. And
so, as far as you know, was that black guard, was it ever discovered that he was the one that brought the razors in? Did anything happen to him? Or?
He got fired, but they never proved that. Right. But he did get fired over it. Because it was obvious, you know, that all the black guys had real knives, and all the bats, not one white guy had a bat.
Right.
So, you know, he lost his job because of that right there.
You mentioned earlier about Mexicans.
So there's two groups out here of Mexicans. There's the Sureños and the Southside Locos. The Southside Locos is a Mexican gang here in Oklahoma City that's based out of Oklahoma City. And those two go to war all the time. They won't even put them on the same yard together. If they put them on the yard together, they go to war immediately. So they don't even put them on the same yard. If there's Sureños on this yard, the Southside Locos are not put on that yard. They'll lock them up immediately and ship them to a different one. They won't put them on the yard together.
And so what about the politics out there as far as different races doing business with other races? Is that something that's permitted or not?
Yeah, all the races deal with each other as far as business wise. So even the UABs will deal with the Bloods and Crips. As far as all that, it's mostly business. Like in the early 90s, you've seen the Bloods and Crips get into it with each other, but not anymore. And now you don't see the Bloods and Crips fighting each other. It's all about business. Everybody's trying to get their money, man. No matter what medium security yard you go to, everybody's trying to get dope in. And most of the problems you see are over drugs and people borrowing and people playing poker and getting in debt. Usually most of the trouble you see is over that. If a white guy goes and gets in debt to black guys and doesn't pay, the white guys will smash you so the black guys don't have to.
So initially, when you first came to prison and the whites were the majority, did they also have the Universal Aryan Brotherhood back then, or did they form when the numbers started changing, when the blacks started getting in majority?
So when I first went to prison, there was a very small brotherhood in Oklahoma, and it was real quiet. Nobody even knew who was in it. It was very secretive, and nobody told anything about it. If you were in it, no one would even know you were in it. And it was a very small number. But once the Bloods and Crips came in, they would more or less rat pack white guys, you know, and all the white guys wouldn't stand up. So they had to have some kind of gang of their own. And that's when the UAB started in 92 or 93 in McAllister. And it was so the white guys would have their own strength, a way to back each other up. So if you're white and you need protection, you can't get in the Brotherhood. I saw somewhere that they say you get in the Brotherhood for protection. If you need protection, you're not welcome in the Brotherhood. If you get into the Brotherhood, it's because you're a strong white guy. And then if you get into it with someone, then you'll have a gang backing you. And that's more or less where that came from, because 3 or 4 blacks would just go in and maul one white guy. So this way, the white guys had a gang to combat that. And I think that that's pretty much where that came from. If there had never been no Bloods or Crips, I don't know if there ever would have been a UAB. I don't know. Maybe there would have, but I don't know.
When the Bloods and Crips did start coming in the prisons out there, how was the change in dynamics? Did the prison become more wilder?
Yes, absolutely. Prison used to be more laid back. If you didn't get yourself in trouble, there wouldn't be no trouble. There was still drugs around, but not on the same level. When the Bloods and Crips come in, it's like the drugs came in. It's like they brought all the cocaine and weed from California with them. Right now, if you go to prison in Oklahoma, you can get any drug you want, no matter what yard you're on, most of the time.
At one point, you mentioned to me there was a riot between the blacks and the Indians, or you called them the chiefs, behind somebody spitting on somebody or something.
Yeah, so what happened is, in Granite's one of the, at the time, you know, prisons change in Oklahoma. Say this prison may be for old people right now, and then it may end up, this prison over here may be for all the roughest people. So at the time, Granite was for the roughest people. All the guys that are always getting in trouble, getting in fights, dealing drugs, they're all at Granite. So there's this black guy, he's a Crip, and he has a job on the top run. His job is to sweep him off the top run. And everybody's locked down right now except for him. We only get a certain amount of time on the yard every day, a couple hours. The war chief is the Indian that runs all the other Indians in the Brotherhood. The war chief is the top dog. And him and another Indian, they had the job of keeping the yard clean outside. And they were outside working on the yard, sitting on the stairs just below the window. And this black guy working upstairs on the top run walked by and spit out the window, not knowing that they were down there. So he accidentally spit on the top Indian, their war chief.
Right.
So the war chief wanted to fight over it, of course, and the black guy agreed to fight. And so the Indians got out there and the blacks got out there and they had a one-on-one fight, and the black guy got the best of the war chief. He whooped him. So the war chief wouldn't accept that. So there was going to be a war. So they made the agreement that there were some drugs coming in this weekend through visitation. So no one was going to go to war until visit was over, so that everyone could be locked down with drugs. So they put it all on hold, and Sunday visit went down and people got their weed and dope in. And then Monday morning, they went to war. And the war chief and 2 of his guys went and attacked that black guy and his cellie, and they killed them both.
Wow.
And then 13 other inmates went to the hospital, and you can Google that. It happened in 2008 in Oklahoma State Reformatory, and you can Google that.
Wow. And so, just doing time out here in California, it sounds a little weird that not the story itself, but that these brothers, these black guys, wasn't more prepared when everybody agreed, okay, we're all gonna kick back, we're all gonna chill until we get the drugs in. So they just
okay. Well, see, check this out. That war chief, remember, worked on the yard. He could get out. Okay, those black guys, they attacked them in their cell.
Right.
Okay, each unit, say Delta unit, has 4 day rooms. Delta 1, 2, 3, and 4. War chief lives around here on 1, but he can get out and go around here. Okay, them guys lived in a day room with a couple Indians. He lived over here, but they got out and come to this day room. Now it's 5 on 2 right now because nothing's opened up yet. But as soon as shit gets opened up, these brothers over here hear what happened, and they attacked the Indians over there. And that's how those Indians went to the hospital. So it kind of jumped off in a chain at this place, then this place. It was just happening all over the yard. So they ended up locking the whole yard down, and there were a lot of Indians injured too. It was just those 2 black guys got killed. They knew it was coming, but when these guys popped the doors and come out, that gave them numbers in that day room.
Right.
But of course, then so
right,
violent, bro.
And what I was just saying is that doing time out here in California, where the prison system is more prevalent to racial riots and stuff. You have people out here of all races, Mexicans, whites, and blacks, who I assume just would have been better prepared for a situation like that. They would have had their knives in the cell. They would have been ready. It seemed like, because like I say, out here, it's all the time, it's consistent. So you kind of get in the mind where you kind of prepare for war, especially when something is about to happen. Sometimes
no doubt
in prison spontaneous, but unfortunately for those 2 guys, in my opinion, it seems like they got either not necessarily caught slipping, but they wasn't quite prepared to the extent that situation was about to turn into.
Yeah.
And
but
so,
sometimes you do find yourself in a situation where there's just nothing you can do.
And that's true as well, man. And so
when the guards help you, you know what I'm saying? When the guards help you and shit.
Right. And that's definitely true. So what was it like when the prison system out there started getting flooded with cell phones?
Oh man. So there was an incident where they so the UABs and the Irish mob, there's one other group out here besides the UAB. It's the Irish mob. The Irish mob, I believe, started around Oklahoma City and Tulsa. They are not near as many. They're greatly outnumbered, but they have problems with each other. So those cell phones came in, and just for an example, this is why the police don't like you having cell phones. They set it up to do a hit on 3 yards at one time. So at 2 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon, they attacked them on 3 different yards because they had the cell phones and could coordinate that. The UABs attacked these Irish mob over here at Connors and McAllister, at Hinton, all 3 places. They attacked them at 2 o'clock. So that was a planned hit.
Right.
And so that was because of cell phones. You can't do something like that without a cell phone. Also, if you come into prison and you have a messed up charge, it's very easy to find out what you're in for. Used to, people would check your paperwork when you come on the yard. But now, because someone on the yard has a cell phone, when you come, no one has to check your paperwork. They just pull you up. And so if you have a sex charge, you're beat out immediately in most of the Oklahoma State prisons.
And so what does a cell phone cost out there or in the prisons, or what were they going for around the time you were locked up?
I still have friends that tell me they go between $200 and $500. And that's what they were then, and that's what they still are, between $200 and $500, depending on the yard you're on.
That's a bargain, then. You know how in California, you may pay $5,000-$6,000 for a cell phone, depending on what institution.
Really?
Yeah, depending on what institution that you're at. Now, when I bought my first cell phone, it was $600, but that was back in 2011. But since then, the price has increased exponentially. It's
wow,
very, very high now.
One of my cousin's son is in prison, and he bought one for $350 a couple of months ago.
Oh yeah,
So,
he definitely got a great deal. And so you mentioned sometimes when people come in, they would check their paperwork. So how does that work out there? Does all races check paperwork, or does some races do and some races don't?
okay, so a little bit of this goes back to what we talked about earlier when the blacks were outnumbered. Okay, so if you're white, Mexican, or Indian, your paperwork is immediately checked most of the time. If you would have went to, now every prison is different, but say you would have went to Granite back when I went. As soon as you get there, if you're white, there's going to be 3 white guys come in to cell on you. One of them is going to be about your size. They're going to ask to see your paperwork. If the guards, they know that's going to happen, so they're going to give you the paperwork. If you don't have it, that means you hit it. All 3 of us are jumping on you. You can't stay. If you have a sex crime, there's no fair one. All 3 of us are jumping on you. You can't stay. If you don't have a fucked up charge, if you have a robbery, a murder, drugs, then you're gonna have to go one-on-one with someone your size to prove you'll fight. The reason for that is the day rooms are kept racially balanced, so that if there's a riot, one side don't have greater numbers than the other. But if there's 8 black guys in here and 8 white guys, but 2 of those white guys won't fight, then it's 8 on 6. So we have to know that you're going to fight if it comes to it. So you still got to get a one-on-one with someone your size. And it'll be up to whoever's running the day room when that fight's over. Some people will stop when they see you'll fight, but some people want to see blood or see someone get choked out. So it really will depend on who's refereeing that fight. Now, the Mexicans and Indians are the same way. But the blacks, they may know what each other does, but they don't go at each other like that. And I think that the reason for that is back when they were so greatly outnumbered, they needed each other. Every one of them needed each other. So you will never see 2 or 3 black guys go jump on one black guy just because of what he come to prison. There has to be something behind it for that to happen with the brothers. Even if he's in a different set, they don't usually do that. The brothers usually look out for each other in Oklahoma. And I really believe that's because they were outnumbered so greatly for so long.
And so let me ask you this. At any point in time, either when the Crips and Bloods were there or back when the blacks were greatly outnumbered, say you had a black guy pull up with bad charges and another race happened to find out that this guy's in for a rape or something like that, would they press to have this guy removed off the yard?
Okay, so that's where your politics comes in. Okay, say you've got, so it depends on who is there. Now, if the white guys aren't really cool with the guys who are, okay, so if you got a white guys who's running the show and the black guys who are running the show, maybe that white guy goes to the head black guy and talks him into doing that. But other than that, no. You will never see the whites go and jump on the blacks, one of the blacks. It's just not going to happen. It don't matter what he done. 2 or 3 white guys go over there to get him. The blacks are going to help him every single time without fail. If it isn't that way, if the blacks do take care of it, it'll be because something happened behind the scenes, or else that ain't going down.
What was it like for you to finally come home?
Like I told you earlier, man, they took me from solitary confinement straight to the streets. Whenever I was 18, I got a battery on a staff with injury, and I got sent to McAllister for that. And that carried 13 points for the remainder of my sentence, which basically kept me in a maximum security. But I had an override to get me to medium. So I never got to go to minimum. I did all my time medium and max and then went straight to the streets. And I went from solitary confinement to an hour later walking around Walmart. And I'm going to tell you, I was lost. I had a phone for 3 days and couldn't turn it on. And I was too embarrassed to ask for help. On the way home, me and my brother walked in the bathroom. And, the paper towels in the sink is motion activated. Right. And I couldn't figure out how to wash my hands, man. Very embarrassing, but I could not figure it out, man. I was completely lost out here.
You said that you had caught a battery on staff and you got 13 points for it. And so those points stayed with you the whole time, because in California, if you get in trouble and, you get points, if you stay out of trouble the next year, you lose like 8 points a year if you're working and you stay out of trouble.
No. Oh no, not here.
If you get just constantly
So it depends on the write-up. If he hadn't been injured, that write-up would have stayed on me for 2 years, and then those points would drop off. But with the injury, never falls off. They say I would have finished that 22 years, I would have been out here doing that 12 and went back, it still would be on me until that 34-year sentence is over. That write-up never falls off, not ever. And 13 points is exactly how many it takes to make you maximum security. Between 9 and 12 is medium, 13 on up is maximum. So that one write-up makes you maximum security the rest of your sentence. But I just got lucky and got it override. I had a lawyer that felt sorry for me and helped me. So other than that, I've been in maximum security the whole damn time.
And so how did you end up, if you can explain quickly, getting into that situation where you was charged with a staff assault? So this was when I first got to Lexington, and I was really trying to fit in, and I was keeping a black eye all the time, from fighting all the time. I got in 3 fights in one day one time with 3 different damn people, man. So I started hanging around with these Indians. They moved a little young Indian guy in with me that was only a couple years older than me. And so these Indians were hanging out with us, and they started calling me Young Guns and him Young Guns too, because of the crime I committed, and I was always getting in fights. They say, you're always throwing little young guns at somebody. Think you're tough. So I'm hanging out with Indians, and they started trying to get me to help them bring in drugs. So I started helping them sneak in weed through visitation. Okay, so it gets me in with the Indians. And so they decide, this little young Indian leaves, so they want me to move in with another Indian so they can keep me pulled up and look out for me. So they have me move in with this Indian. His name is Jose Valdez. He's half Indian, half Mexican. And he scores weed all the time. And they wanted me in with him because they know I'll help him get away with it. They say, I'm a little convict. They're teaching me. So what I don't know, well, I'll get to that in a second. So one day he brings in some weed from visitation. And he decides that instead of going on the other side where the police can be jiggered and everything and we can get it ready, he wants to do it in the middle of the night after lockdown. So in the middle of the night, me and him are sitting there getting this weed ready. We're making them into caps. The way we sell weed out here is we take the glove fingers out of the kitchen, those plastic gloves with the fingers, and we'll take a funnel and we take a chapstick cap. We break the weed up, fill that chapstick cap up, and pour it in a glove finger, tie it off. That's a cap of weed. It's enough to make a joint about the size of a toothpick. Those are either 10 in canteen or 3 for 10 in cash money or transfer. Right. So we're sitting there making up caps. I look up and I seen something at the window. I jump up and run and look, and the guard is walking off. I said, dude, he just seen us doing that. No, he ain't see shit. I had my back. I said, dude, he's seen that shit. We need to keister that shit up. So in the end, I'm an 18-year-old kid, and it's his shit. We're going to do it his way. So he decides we're going to stay up late. In case they come back, we'll be ready. If not, we know they didn't see us. That's what he says. So we stay up getting high all night. About 6:30 in the morning, we go to sleep at 8. They wake us up for shakedown. Okay? So we step out of the cell, and I said, man, you got that shit on you? He said, no, it's in there underneath my pillow. I'm going to get it and throw it down to you because we're on the top run. Now, there's a day room floor. Then you go up the stairs to the top run, stairs down to the bottom run. So the plan was for me to stand in the day room, him to go in the cell and throw me the weed for me to run off and flush it. Okay? Which still is going to take us to lockup, but at least they won't get no weed because they can give us time for it. Right. So he goes in the cell, comes back out without doing nothing. So I'm walking up the stairs. Said, what happened? Said, they won't let me in the cell. Go get it and throw it to me. I'll run with it. So I go up there, ask if I can get a cigarette. They say, yeah. I go up in the cell. I grab the shit, throw it over the police's head, lands at the bottom of the stairs on the other side. Police takes off running for it. There's another police in the cell with me. But I'm thinking the shit should be gone. So I just step out on a run to watch. This motherfucking piece of shit looks at the guard and the weed, crossed his arms and turned his fucking back. And I'm thinking, holy shit, that's 20 years. So I jump over the top rail. I'm in my underwear. I jump over the top rail, land on my hands and knees. I broke my toes. I grab the weed. Right when I grab it, the guard comes off the stairs on me. I just gave a shrug like that and throw it at him again. This time I hit the trash can beside him and fell at his feet. But now everybody in the day room's watching, and he has to pick it up and run with it. But they still got a couple caps fell out of the bag. So I got a battery on the staff for throwing my shoulder at him.
And they wrote it up for injury because he scraped his elbow on the heater and caused a small amount of bleeding. That's what the write-up said. Made his back sore and tense, and it caused a small amount of bleeding on his elbow. You need a Band-Aid. So they take me up to the major's office, and they tell me, they say, we know that's his shit. We know that ain't your shit. They've been getting away with it. We've been trying to catch them. And here it is. You're in the way. They're using you, kid. All you got to do is tell us it ain't yours, that it's his. And I said, I'm using my right to remain silent. So you're teaching you that convict shit. Keep in mind, I'm just turned 18. They're trying to teach you to be a convict. Really, they're using you. They said, you know what he just said? I said, no. He said, he's saying it's yours. I'm thinking they're lying, right? Then they asked me, you know what he's in prison for? And I said, he's on a parole violation. They said, he's in here for child molesting his niece. The dude was a fucking child molester, man. And they had me living with this dude, using me to get away with this shit. But I still can't fucking tell on him. Huh?
You're talking about the Indian guy, right?
The one I'm living with. Yeah, he's a fucking child molester. And they're keeping him around for the drugs. They're using me to try to help keep him out of trouble. I end up going to McAllister for battery on a staff because they can only get you for one thing. They could have got me for the weed or the battery on the staff. Battery on staff is more serious. They stuck me with it. They told me if I wouldn't tell on the dude, they're going to send me to McAllister. I thought they was bullshitting, but they sent my ass to McAllister, maximum security, 18 years old. And he ended up going to a minimum and going fucking home. And he was a child molester, man. His wife still came and seen him and everything. Wow. But yeah, that's how I got to McAllister.
And so when you did all the time and you came home, what were some of the things that kind of had you astounded that had changed in those 20 years?
Everything changed. You have to remember that I went when I just turned 15. Like, I had never had a driver's permit. I've never been on a date. No woman had ever seen me naked. I'd only been to the movie theater one time. I grew up in a little bitty country town, and I was very protected by my family, and I'd never been away from home except for the church camp. So when I came out and there was cell phones and internet, when I went to prison, only one person in my family had a phone, and it was in their house. No one had cell phones. You know, it was a long way from March of 1989 to 2009. It's a long way. And I was lost on everything. I didn't even know how to drive a car. My wife taught me to drive a car. My wife was the first woman to see me naked. So I've told people all the time that it was easier for me to go to prison when I was 15 than it was for me to get out when I was 35. No one would give me a job. You know, you put up a sign and you got a business and you want to hire somebody. Who are you going to hire? A kid just out of school that you can teach? Or are you going to hire a guy that just did 20 years in prison for murder with no work history?
Right.
Hell, if you hire me and something happens, it's your fault for hiring me, right? So really, you don't just pay while you're in prison. You pay for the rest of your life. I'll never be even for what I did when I was 15.
Right.
I was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and I went to prison for murder, and I will pay for the rest of my life. And that's why I make these YouTube videos. I started making videos on YouTube to hopefully save some other kid from making the same mistake that I made. Save some other family from the hurt that my family faced. And
so since you have been out or while you was locked up, did you have any communication with the other two guys who was involved in your crime?
No, the oldest guy wanted nothing to do with us because he turned states on us. I don't hate the guy. I wouldn't do anything to him. We was just a kid. The 14-year-old and me were really good friends, but I never seen him the whole time we were in prison, and I've never seen him since I've got out, and I haven't tried to look him up. I've tried to just make prison a thing in my past. Something I'd like to leave behind me, not carry with me to the future, you know?
Right. And so, Ricky, I really appreciate you for coming on here, sharing your story, man. It definitely was intriguing and interesting. It's good to see you free.
Thank you, brother. It's good to see you free too. I want to give you a special thanks because I've reached out to several people who make these videos to try to help me get a foothold. and you were the first one to really accept it. And me and you've had problems with scheduling and different issues, but you were patient, you stuck with it, and you helped me do it. I appreciate you trying to help me get a little traction.
Thank you. I appreciate you for reaching out to me, Ricky. And, you know, like I say, the reason why I try to correspond with people who reach out to me, Ricky, because honestly, I know what it's like. You know, I know what it's like to do time. I know what it's like to get out, to try to start a YouTube page or whatever. And it seems like, you know, nobody wants to help. And I just feel like we're all in the same community. And, you know, even though I may have more subscribers than I had 2 years ago, I just feel I'm the same individual, you know, and it's just in me to, you know, to try to reach out and help. So, hey, I appreciate you for reaching out, man. Tell everybody where they can find you and to what the name of your YouTube channel.
So on YouTube, just go and look up my name, Ricky Dye, RICKEYDYE. And my Twitter is at Growing Up Rough. And my face, everything's just my name, Ricky Dye. It's right there on the screen. So.
And thank you once again, Ricky. And of course, you know, you have my number. If you ever need any help with anything or any advice about something, you know, just reach out. And if I don't know it, I can, you know, get a hold of a couple buddies who may know it, because like I said, it's you know, it's really important for us to try to help each other, for us to try to share information. A lot of these YouTubers who don't want to help other people, to me, it's mind-boggling, because, you know, let's keep it real. Google or whoever owns YouTube, they have a whole lot of money to pass out. These people act as if since we're in the same lane. Oh, I can't help Ricky. Telling prison stories, that's gonna mess with my money. Some of these guys are just selfish and greedy from the gate. You know, I reached out to a few people too for a little information. Never got any, you know, never got a reply back. So some of these guys, they get caught up on having likes and views, and they get beside themselves, man. So, you know. They do.
Hey, so any of you guys from my channel, you see this, make sure you check Chill out, man. Give them a subscribe for me. Thank you.
Right. Hey, and thank you, Ricky. Enjoy the rest of your day, man. I'll probably try to get this edited and have it up in a few days. But once again, thank you for sharing your story with my subscribers. It was extremely interesting.
Thank you, brother. God bless you all. Peace out.
All right. You guys remember to look him up once again. That's Ricky Dye, RICKEYDYE on YouTube. Great prison stories from Oklahoma. He shares his experiences. So you guys definitely be sure to check him out. With that being said, y'all already know what time it is. It's your boy 16 to Life. Resume normal program.
These niggas ain't who they say they is, so beware. Fuck what you saying, cause these cowards ain't playing fair. They shoot at you, you shoot at them, they snitch, and they don't care. Fuck gang banging, I'd rather be a square. These niggas ain't who they say they is, so beware. Fuck what you saying, cause these cowards ain't playing fair. They shoot at you, you shoot at them, they snitch, and they don't care. Fuck gang banging, I'd rather be a square. Yeah, I swear to God, the game is cold, homie. Why? I popped on a pussy ass nigga after he stole on me.
What happened next?
That nigga gained a court and told on me.
Put that on something.
That's on my soul, homie. Called the highway patrol on me, plus the sheriffs and cops. He told him my name was Eric and I carried the Glock. Soon as you start blowing shots, them niggas going to tail. They'll have a meeting with the cops and then you going to jail. They'll tell him about the shooting, take him, show him his well. DA trying to seal your casket, they gon' throw him the nails. They wanna put me back in the cell and have me with an L again. Same strip searches and guards reading my mail again. Had me far away in the bay, I'm talking Pelican. Eating cold ass soy burgers and warm gelatin. I'm far too intelligent to fall for that twice. Niggas yelling gang gang and ain't about that life. And they'll turn rat right in front of your face. Get you found guilty plus 100 years on the case. Your mama sitting in the courtroom with tears on her face. Her baby shackle feet, hands and waist.
Goddamn.
These niggas ain't who they say they is, so beware. Fuck what you saying, cause these cowards ain't playing fair. They shoot at you, you shoot at them, they snitch, and they don't care. Fuck gang banging, I'd rather be a square. These niggas ain't who they say they is, so beware. Fuck what you saying, cause these cowards ain't playing fair. They shoot at you, you shoot at them, they snitch, and they don't care. Fuck gang banging, I'd rather be a square. Yeah.